When you first start trying to improve your vertical jump, one question that you're going to run across a lot is whether or not calf raises are good for improving your vertical. A very common misconception is that doing 1,000 calf raises a day is a really good workout for improving your vertical jump. And today I'm going to talk about why that myth exists, why it is a myth, and what we can learn from it and actually apply to our training. Before we get started, I just want to say I don't really have much B-roll footage that's horizontal. I record vertically typically when I'm recording dunks, so bear with me. You're going to see a lot of the clips that you normally see if you watch my channel. But firstly, where did this myth start? I believe this myth started from something that Nate Robinson and Shaq were saying. Nate Robinson said that he did calf raises in the sauna every day, and Shaq said that he did 1,000 calf raises every day, and that got his vertical jump up. However, these are two freak athletes who probably just don't really know why they're freak athletes, and they attributed it to one exercise that they did. We know Nate Robinson and Shaq both play professional basketball. We know that Nate Robinson did dunk contests, so obviously it's something he practiced. He had that nervous system stimulation of doing 100% max effort jumps, and that, at the end of the day, is what really got him better, and probably a lot of the plyos and heavy lifting he was doing with his team. The reason I point this out is because even though they were playing in NBA games and doing NBA player level training or college level training before they got to the league, if someone gives them a piece of advice, especially when they're younger, and they end up, having the outcome of that advice, which is jumping high, naturally they're going to conclude by non sequitur that that is the reason. Now let's discuss why calf raises are not really effective for improving vertical jump. First of all, any training that you do with your legs or getting you stronger is going to help you with your vertical jump. It's just that some things are a 10 out of 10 in terms of being optimal training, and other things really aren't doing too much for you. And if there's a better alternative, you obviously want to take that. One thing that you're going to see overlapping between any good training program for explosive athletes, whether that be for a vertical jump program or just something that's designed by, a Division I track coach or something like that for sprinters, jumpers, etc., is that they will always be low sets. For example, if you're doing any compound movement like a squat or a power clean, it's usually going to be 3 sets of 4, 4 sets of 5, something like that. Also, another overlapping factor is that they will be periodized, and I'll explain what that means in a second. So the reason you're doing low sets is because you need to train how you're going to perform. For example, if you were a 100-meter sprinter, would you just run miles every single day? Of course not. You would be doing sprints that were similar distance to what you're going to run. Now, if we apply that in a more nuanced manner to explosive training, how is 1,000 calf raises ever going to be applicable? When you do squats and it's 3 sets of 4, 4 sets of 2, something like that, you're replicating that one explosive movement that you have to make when you jump. If you do 1,000 calf raises, you're preparing yourself for an instant where you have to make 1,000 contractions over the course of 10 minutes, which would just never happen. Granted, there are contexts where it makes sense to do high sets. For example, if you're a bodybuilder or if you're a football player, two things you have in common between those people is that you're going to try and build mass. Hypertrophy is a result of high sets. So if you want to get large muscles and, mass moves mass, so for your sport, football, it would make sense that you would actually do high sets, 10 to 12 to 15. So one thing that you really have to understand for vertical jump training is that strength is a trait of the central nervous system. This means that someone without large muscles can easily produce a lot of power if they train the correct way. For example, I weigh 145 pounds. I have a max squat of 335, a max half squat of 385, a max trap bar deadlift of 425, a max power clean of 195. Obviously, those numbers aren't amazing or anything, but I look like this, and when you see someone who looks like this, you don't expect them to be lifting that much. All of this is to say different ways of training are going to have different outcomes, and so you don't have to be Mr. Muscles in order to produce a lot of power. In fact, by intentionally not becoming Mr. Muscles and just focusing on low sets, you will become powerful a lot quicker. What helped me to understand what strength being a trait of the central nervous system means is the fact that there are many instances of something called hysterical strength. A really good example of hysterical strength is in 1982 in Lawrenceville, Georgia, when a mother found her son passed out under his car that he was repairing. She went into a state of extreme adrenaline and was strong enough to be able to lift the car enough for someone else to pull him out from underneath it. The point being, everyone watching this video can probably technically squat 800 pounds. It's just that your body would never let you do that because it puts restraint on how much of a muscle you're able to use. But obviously, hysterical strength relates nothing to training. It's just something I wanted to bring up, that your body is able to do way more than it lets you do. When you train for power, you're teaching your nervous system that, oh, this is really close to my max, but I can lift it. I can lift it comfortably. And then you keep improving and you keep telling your body and ramping it up as to what it's considered its max. So don't get me wrong, if you're lifting heavy things, you will A, get muscle, and you will B, get more powerful. It's just what you want to emphasize when you're actually doing the training. So are calf raises just a totally useless exercise? I would say certainly not. There is definitely a context where it makes sense to do them. Isaiah Rivera has talked a lot about single leg calf raises, which I really like doing, and of course you're going to be doing a lot more weight than you would, like no body weight calf raises. Those you can kind of throw out the window. But it's usually just that there's something better to do than calf raises. For example, power cleans, squats, trap bar deadlifts, a lot of the things that I've talked about before. Of course, plyometrics are in there too. I was one of those people who thought me doing plyometrics 4 times a year when I was 14 was the reason I jump high. Obviously, I was falsely attributing my success to one single exercise, much like how people do with 1,000 calf raises. They get in that routine and they get success, so they come to a conclusion by a non sequitur that's what helped them jump higher. So to kind of wrap things up here, anything that you do with your legs to try and jump higher is probably gonna make progress. However, how you make that progress depends on what exercises you're doing, and calf raises just are not one of those S tier, A tier, or even B tier exercises compared to a lot of the ones I mentioned earlier. So are calf raises a bad thing? Of course not. They're not going to subtract from your gains, but doing 1,000 of them and body weight every single day, definitely not going to be a good idea, and your time could be much better spent doing something else. Thanks for listening.